Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Chris from the Ultimate Recycler, and welcome back once again for this week to the emergency storage shed for the start of a new century. Yes, we're up to part 101. That's one episode every week, almost 2 years. That's pretty cool. We've got to get some more stuff out of the middle. There was that pile of boxes we were working on. We seem to be almost tunneling way back there, but we've got to get a bit further before we can go across. I'll show you what I mean. And you know, I reckon I'm going to have to hook up another fluoro light here. It's like when you get deeper into a mine, you have to string out some more lights. We're getting a fair way back in here, and I want to finish this pile in the middle. So today's episode will be that Australia Post box. Probably more shed stuff from my old shed behind the shop I used to be in, not sure. But once we get that pile gone, we can then attack this shelf next to it, the one with the welder on. There's other boxes of random things, some tools, lots of mystery stuff again. There's another old CRT monitor down the bottom, because I'd like to get that shelf unit out, and we will be able to once, of course, we empty it, and we'll attack it once we finish this row here. Then we'll get over this side an old console radio. There's another one on its side up there. There's lots more random boxes of stuff. And remember, we still have this huge big cast iron mangle to assemble, but I'm not sure where the rest of the parts are, so we'll have to, there's a roller there with the big gear on one end. But I'll probably leave that there until I'm sure I've got all the parts. There's also a shearing down tube, I think they call it, or drive shaft, and the motor that runs off has been placed somewhere. I forget where I put it. It was on the deck. I think it's gone back to the carport. Don't tell Christine, but we hid it pretty well. It's out of the road, and we'll have to get to that at some stage, and I want to actually see if I can get the motor going. But lots to go here, though. Let's do our obligation for this week and get this box in on the bench. This box is decidedly heavy, so I don't know what's in the bottom of it. There's some random shed things on the top, some Bakelite electrical fittings, but I'm not sure what's down the bottom. So obviously something with a bit of weight. Any wonder the box underneath it was sagging a bit. It's a bit of an obligation to keep up with this every week, but I'm determined not to miss a week at all. And as I said, we've nearly done 2 years. We've got lots going on now that I'm doing a weekly e-waste processing video. I've still got to go back to the farm this month at some stage. Well, hopefully this month. We've got to finish that job off. My van's still full from the last big shed clean out we did. And don't tell anyone, but we may have quoted on another house shed lot today. We might have to go there next week. Where am I going to put the stuff? Has anyone got a spare shed? But I have to keep up with this. It'd be very easy to say, I will leave that shed for a while because we've got too much going on. But if I do that, I will never get it finished. Let's dig through this box. Okay, let's indeed have a dig, because I want to see what's heavy in the bottom. In here we have, that's a mouse trap. One of those over-center spring ones. They work very well. A film canister. What's in it? Fuses. Well, they're always handy. So just random shed bits and pieces here. There are some Bakelite electrical fittings. A timber cone. I have no idea what that's off. It looks pretty old. A little bench grinder thing that just clamps on your bench, but it's missing the grinding wheel and it's seized up. But if I can find a wheel, it's worth putting it on, because these things sell okay. But we'll see if we can free it up, and we'll see if we can find an old grinding wheel for it, just for effect. So mostly electrical. There's some nice old 60s drawer knobs here. There's a few of them, so they'll sell. We'll go through that properly in a minute. Where's all this weight coming from? We have some retro type TV legs. That one's not. That's just like a really thin rolling pin. There's retro TV legs. I think there's only 3 of them. That's a shame. Or maybe it could be a tripod. Not sure on those. They look like they're teak. So that timber could well be handy, even for making those spikes off the starburst clocks. It's nice to have a long bit of teak. This ice cream container has some big rubber O-rings. Now they're from joining large earthenware pipes. I don't know why I've got them. I think they could also be used for a tyre on an old pedal car. Probably a little bit thick, but you'd get away with it at a pinch. There's a caster of something. I can see where some of the weight is now. So I don't think we really need these rubber O-rings, but we might get rid of them at the shop. I don't want to throw them out. Okay, oh, okay, this is heavy. What's in this? Oh, looks like a whole box of fairly new tech screws. Now these are, they've got a little drill bit type end, so they're for self-drilling, probably screwing fencing, galvanised iron to fences or something like that. Or maybe because of self-drilling you'd be screwing them into metal purlins, roofing screws, something like that. Anyway, I don't think I need any of those. I'll probably sell those in one lot. Bit of weight in that. And the other thing I could see before is a little box full of nice old coal chisels. Sharpened with file, it says. Sidchrome. It's a Sidchrome 22mm coal chisel. So that's certainly worth a bit. And that one's another Sidchrome 19mm coal chisel. And the ends don't look too bad. They would sharpen up very nice. Some standard punches. A couple of just round bits of metal. That one looks a bit butchered. Some of these might go in the scrap metal. Yeah, they're probably a box that I had when I was doing a lot of scrapping behind the old shop. You always need punches to knock things out, like roll pins and stuff. So I'll go through that a bit better shortly. What's in this one? This is a part of an old brass microscope. It's a very old one. And I can remember this was in my old shed. It was incomplete when I found it years ago, and I put it aside because I thought somehow it might make a really cool desk lamp if I can put a globe in it somehow. So that was going to be an upcycle project. It's solid brass. I don't think the top... Oh, the top does go up and down. No, it doesn't. Oh, it sort of does, yeah. But it doesn't have any glass lenses in it. Oh, yes, there is one in the top. So we'll have a better look at that. I reckon that's got potential. I have a little jar full of rusty nails. I have explained to you guys that I like rusty nails because when you're rebuilding an old box, you don't want a nice new shiny nail. That's the caster we had before. Here are some other bits to that microscope. There's some glass lenses. Yeah, I don't think it's worth selling as a microscope itself. I might just Google the brand just to make sure it's not a super rare one. So, all right, we'll put that aside for the moment. And in the bottom here we have Never Break hacksaw blades. They're fairly short. That's for a short hacksaw. They actually, oh no, I don't think they have been used. I think they're new old stock, made in England. And lots of other blades and things in here. This must have been my stash of hacksaw blades from my old shop, old workshop. There's a homemade welding pick, just a piece of metal. And it looks like that end might have been a fencing key just for twitching wire. We had one of those little hacksaw handles the other day. Lots more hacksaw blades. And that looks like welding electrodes in this box. Yep, some welding electrodes for arc welding. There's a really nice, very sharp square file. We'll hang on to that one. Lots more hacksaw blades. An old knife. It almost looks homemade. Don't think that's anything special. More welding electrodes. And another whole pack of them. And another pack. General purpose welding electrodes. Alright, I'll keep some of them here, but I'm never going to use all these, so I'll probably sell some of them. I think I have a packet actually with my welder anyway. Just a very cheap little hacksaw that feels like it's a toy. Don't think there's any value there. And a little tiny one for reusing broken hacksaw blades, which is quite handy when you need to get into a small spot. And that's all we've got in this box, so not overly exciting. Probably the microscope was the coolest thing, and some Bakelite electrical stuff. So I'll sort it all out and we'll get back to you shortly. Okay, it's the next day and I've managed to sort some of the stuff out, and I need to make some decisions, and I've made some decisions on some things which I'll get back to you shortly. We'll unpack this tub of Bakelite stuff and other bits and pieces in a minute. I thought I might just pull this apart and see if we can free it up. There's only a cover plate on the inside. And they're very tight, but we'll get there. Now, this is a time where I've actually probably made a mistake throwing stuff out, or at least making decisions without thinking it through. I had some old grinding stones. I had a heap of them, and I think I've even found some at the farm when I was sorting out the workshop there. And I threw them out saying, you know, you wouldn't use them because you don't know if they're cracked and they'd be very dangerous. And I've said the same with angle grinder blades recently. However, in something like this that's hand cranked, they don't get up to a lot of speed, and really it's not meant to be used. It's more decorative. So I should have kept a couple of the old grinding stones just for fixing up things like this to make them saleable as a complete historic workshop item, you know, and people buy them as a collectible rather than to use. So yeah, I'll see if I can find one for it. So that's the gearing looks all right in there, but it's seized up. Now what parts it's seized on, I can move the handle and that big gear works, so I know it's seized in the little pinion gear and the shaft. It's got an oil hole there. Let's put a bit of spray lube in there. A little bit on the shaft and a bit that end. Now I don't expect it to start moving without a bit of assistance. Let's see if some pliers can make it move. Oh yep, that's it. The spray lube got in there straight away. So there we go. Easy as that to free it up. Someone's put a bit of garden hose in here, which isn't ideal because it doesn't swivel. A proper handle would swivel. But again, people aren't really going to use this thing, but it's nice to have it that they can turn it. All right, let's put the cover back on, and if I can find a little grindstone for it and put it on there, we're probably going to get $15 for it or so. Let's put it back together and we'll deal with that later on. Okay, let's go through this tub and see what we've got here. Turner Australia made a lot of doorknobs. In fact, hardware items, that's probably where they came from. Is there any? Oh yeah, knobs. 2-inch black, 1 dozen. That would be it, but I don't think we've got a dozen in here. But I'm wondering if it's worth taping the box up. I might just tape the bottom of the box up then. And they are branded Turner, so that's good. All right, we'll put them in there. How many did we have? We had 4, 5, 6. So it looks like half of them have gone. That's okay. I'll fix that box up a little bit, but that makes them saleable, and it's kind of cute. They're in the original box. Okay, we have our fuses, so I'll put them in a tub that I keep here for my stock, so they'll be handy. I don't think I need to keep the little film canister. I don't know where the lid's gone now. We have some switches, and I mention these all the time when I find them. That one's a bit stiff. It needs a bit of lube. But I do get $5 each for these switches, and a bit of spray in there will fix that up. They sell quite well, Bakelite switches, probably from the 1930s and 40s, and they were used into the 50s. That's a lamp base with a little connector block on it. I'll probably keep the actual lamp base because I do make up some lamps and I repair a lot of lamps, so that's going to be usable. We'll take the little connector block off. There's another one exactly the same, and these are fittings from lamps, and I do use quite a lot of these. That's a metal or brass one. There's a double potentiometer or variable resistor. It's quite an old one, made in Melbourne, Australia. Feels okay. Might be useful in restoration of a vintage Bakelite radio or something. I do have a box where I keep some of those parts. Bakelite plug, white one, which is a HPM brand. That's Australian made as well. And the side fitting, sometimes quite useful, so I'll hang on to that. Well, I won't keep it. I've got a box of those at the shop that I also sell for $5. And there's another plug there that needs a top on it, but that's not damaged. So I do keep parts of them because I often make them up. There's another one. That's a complete HPM Australian made Bakelite plug. So the ones that are complete, I'll get $5 for. The ones that are incomplete, I'll put in a box at the shop where I keep all the parts. And every now and again, I make up a few. There's the top from our film canister. Another switch. That one works okay. Another lamp part with a switch. That's good. These are sometimes very handy to go on the old standard lamps or floor lamps. So excellent, we'll hang on to those parts. We have a plug and a socket here, but this is a 4-pin plug. Now I'm not exactly sure what these were used for, but with the socket it's got a little bit broken out there. Although I think that's supposed to, oh no it's not. Maybe it is supposed to be able to be broken out because it's very thin, so that if you have conduit running down the outside of the wall, you can feed the wires in without actually drilling into the wall. But I don't think they'll use for mains power, so let me know if you know what these 4-pin ones were used for. But we might keep that together as a set, and I think that will certainly sell. What's in the end? I think it's got a wasp's nest in there. We'll clean that out. A large metal hook. I've got plenty of those at the shop. This one's just been bent up for a certain purpose. I do hang things off old ladders at the shop, so sometimes they're handy, but I've got plenty of them, so that can go in the scrap metal. A stay or a pivot bracket from, it's seized up a bit, just from a small box. A strut, I guess you'd call it, a lid strut. I don't think I need to keep that. It's not in very good condition, so they can go in the pressing steel. Here we have a little tool for a angle grinder or some sort of power tool where you need to, usually on an angle grinder you would hold the collar to change discs. I'll check if that fits mine. If it doesn't, oh, I've got one anyway, so I'll put that in the $1 box at the shop. Another 4-way socket. Another, is that the, no, that's another plug we need a part for. A double light socket. I don't really use those and the switch doesn't feel very good. But I'll put that in a box at the shop where I have some vintage Bakelite fittings for just $1 each. More lamp parts, another socket there. Another white Bakelite plug, so that's good, we'll get $5 for those. A tap from a water drum. I don't even think they're worth $1. I think you can pick them up at the hardware for next to nothing. I'll put that in the free box. I've got a free box at the shop. Same with the old mouse trap. I don't need that here. Free box. We have some connectors, so I do have a jar for those. A few connector blocks, quite a few, and one to get off that, or those other lamp fittings. A timber knob. Don't think I really need to keep that one. Nothing special about it. More lamp parts. That's a good switch. Excellent. And a lamp collar. Now that one's broken. That'd have to be rubbish. A rubber stopper from something. If it was a set of them, I'd keep it. I don't think I'd ever use one. Maybe handy as a door cushion when the door opens completely. But yeah, I don't think I need to keep that. Some fluorescent tube ends, fittings. I won't be using those. Another one, might just chop the short lengths of wire off. And a couple of these brass clips that you used to use for wiring, not used so much anymore. And a larger switch from a fuse box. I think, yeah, that's a night rate, day rate. That's a hot water switch. Off, night rate. That's actually a good switch. Feels good. We'll give it a bit of a clean up. Someone may well have a use for that. It's going to be rated at 240 volts, 36 amps, so I can handle quite a lot of current. We'll put $5 in that. I reckon someone will have a use for that at some stage. And that's the end of our tub. And I kind of like these little tubs. They're very handy for storage in the shed. Alright, let's clean up some stuff. I'll get the notepad out in a second. But what I'll have to mention to you, well, I'm going to throw these nails in the shred because I've got plenty of rusty nails at the moment, and I can use the jar. Matchbox. I didn't look in the matchbox. Is there anything special in it? Ah, just matches. Okay, I'll use them in the shed. Now the coal chisels, the Sid Chrome coal chisels, I cleaned up and I've just buffed them on the wire wheel, smeared a bit of CRC over them, or WD-40. I did sharpen them a bit with a file as instructed, but that one's pretty good actually. This one I suspect was actually touched up on a grinder because it's quite uneven. I think I will bring it back with a file and get it nice and square and sharp. And I'm planning on keeping these two for my shed. They would sell quite well, probably $20 each, but I'm going to hang on to those. Just need to clean up a bit of the burr around the head as well. But I do want to build up a set of really good quality tools in my shed, and I kind of like the Australian made SIG chrome stuff. So I'll fix them up with a file. If you're not familiar with metal properties, they say to use a file rather than a grinder, because if you use a grinder on that, whether it's a bench grinder or an angle grinder or something, it introduces a lot of heat into the metal and you'll upset the temper of the steel. For these cultures to work, the steel needs to be harder than what they're cutting, and if they heat up red hot, you're going to destroy the temper and you won't have a good cutting edge. So that's why you should use a file on them. I did touch that with a file, as you can see, and I think it's still pretty hard, so I'll clean that up. It should be fine. Let's get the notepad out, and then I'll mention a few other things I've decided with this lot. Okay, cue the notepad. We have a total of $140 for what I'm going to sell, and there are the prices. Let me explain a few things. First of all, let's get rid of some stuff. Well, the jar I'll use, those e-waste, those three going in the bin. Scrap metal, keeping for parts, so they're all the lamp parts. And we have a little bit of copper wire. I'm keeping the SIG chrome chisels as mentioned. I thought I'd keep the little knife because it's handy for weeding. It's good, nice sharp blade, and I can easily just touch it up on the grinder just for getting weeds out of the lawn. These bits here, well, I'll use the matches. These bits I'm just adding to jars, and some of it I'll keep, some I won't. And these punches, I'm actually going to, I'll put them in a waterproof container, another tin with a lid or something, that they can stay outside next to my outside vise. And then when I'm scrapping out there, they're just really handy punches that don't really matter. You can belt them away, and if you damage them, you just put them in the scrap themselves. But, you know, nothing special in there, but they're handy for scrapping. I'll keep the timber as suggested. Even this cone, it's a very old piece of pine. You notice with the old pine, there's no knots in it. Even this one, it looks like either a part of a broomstick. It's a little bit wider than a broomstick. But it's a nice piece of pine with not a single knot in it. And then the teak, as I mentioned, I'll hang on to that. The brass microscope is probably the pick of this unboxing. And I've decided I'm not going to make a lamp out of it because I don't need any more projects. I've decided I'm going to eBay it. Now, I did do some checking, and it's branded, not sure if you'll read it there, it's branded how would you say it, Leitz, Leitz, I presume it's a German make, and I did see a few of them through eBay, some worth a lot of money, like some were priced in the thousands. This one I couldn't find anything identical. It's got really nice shaped feet on it, but because we've got the other bits as well, I figured it may be handy for someone that's restoring one and wants parts, because where would you find even a screw for one of these if you're doing one up? There are some glass in the lenses, although I suspect this thing may have been in a fire because that lens looks like it's melted. And perhaps that would explain why it looks a bit average, but the brass itself hasn't melted. The little rack and pinion raising and lowering thing here, the gearing is damaged. I had it out before and it's been kind of stripped. So I think it's going to be handy for parts rather than restoring in its own right. But I reckon we'll put that on eBay. I'm going to see if I can get myself $50 for that. So keep an eye on my eBay playlist because that will feature down the track. All these big O-rings, I thought I'd put $5 a lot on just in case someone has a use for them. If they sit around the shop too long, they'll go to the free box. The tech screws in there, the roofing tech screws, I'll go $20 on the box lot. I did look them up online, and you could buy a pack of 50 of them for $29, I think. And I think there's a lot more than 50 in there. So someone will get some good value for that. The moulding rods, I'm going to split them in half. I'm going to ask $10 for the big pack and group all the other ones together at $10. I don't know. I think we'll sell them. I've sold welding rods or electrodes in the shop before and had success. So there's a lot of them there. We'll see how we go. I'm going to keep all this stuff, just the hacksaw blades, because I do use them. That's a really good file. And if you haven't seen one of these, they're great. It's actually like an abrasive wire that you can put in your hacksaw. And they're really handy for hacksawing out holes and things, because it can just go around whichever way you put the pressure on it, it will cut. So I've used one of those a few times. They're quite handy. $5 on that group because someone might use it. I don't know. I'll put 5 in the switch as mentioned. I thought I'd just price this grinder at 5. I can't find a wheel for it, but one may well turn up. So I'll put 5 on it for now. I'd have 10, maybe 15 on it if it was complete. So there we go. That basically takes you through my decision-making process and how we've actually allocated everything to leave my shed. Well, most things to leave my shed. As I said, I'm keeping a few bits and pieces, but we still should get around about 140 out of this lot. Not a bad box, but then that brass microscope, it's up in the air. I'm going to start as an auction. It may go higher if parts are hard to get for those. So that ends episode 101 of the Emergency Storage Shed Cleanout series, where we just continue to get boxes out of that shed, gradually making more space, getting a fair bit of return through the shop and finding some cool stuff for me to keep here, or at least workshop consumables and the odd interesting thing. Plus we're getting eBay stock now with this microscope and the other parts. And for those of you that haven't been watching my How to eBay series, or it's more of a just online sales examples and a bit of instruction, for some reason the YouTube algorithm doesn't really like it because I don't seem to get many views on that series, but that's fine. But if you're watching these unboxings and you want to see how stuff goes, I do film the end of auctions and all this stuff that I unpack and say, well, I'm hoping to get 50 for it. You'll actually see what I do get for it. So that's where I'll be putting those, and also good things that I find from the e-waste series that I'm unpacking, and YouTube seems to like the e-waste ones. They get really good views. So all the stuff that I say I'm going to eBay, that playlist on how to eBay or how to sell online is where the results will be seen. So anyway, that's how my channel seems to have structured itself. I didn't really plan that, but now I'm cross-referencing all my playlists. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.